Thank you, Mr. Singh. So Abhishek Singh is the lead of the India AI mission. Thank you very much for coming all the way from Delhi to Bangalore for the Accel AI Summit. Thank you, Prashant, and congratulations on the Padma Shri honor. We saw visuals of you receiving that from the President of India. A huge round of applause for him. Abhishek, let me start with you. Vas spoke about how India should lean in to its strengths. And traditionally, we've been very strong in services. But what will it take to emerge as a leader across the block, whether it's innovation, research, at the foundational level? METI has taken steps towards that by picking some startups to build foundational models. But what is your own take on unlocking India's AI potential?
We all have heard about our strengths, and our core strength primarily has been our engineering talent, which has kind of translated into our strength in services, software services that we have been exporting. But once the talent is there, and it's the AI age, with talent you need two more ingredients, primarily compute and data sets. And the kind of compute that is required to train models, it's a resource hungry. And you require a lot of funds to be able to access that compute, to be able to develop AI models at scale. Unfortunately, the investment that is available from investors within India, of course, Accel is an outlier in that regard, but very often investors don't have the patience to wait for a long period. So to address that gap, to ensure that compute is number one available, and number two available at an affordable cost, Government of India's India AI mission has been playing a big role in trying to ensure that we are able to enable the ecosystem in which private sector partners are incentivized to invest in the compute infrastructure that our startups, researchers, academicians can access, entrepreneurs. And the number two, the second ingredient that's required is, of course, about having access to data sets. Again, government does have access to a lot of data sets across domains. So we are working on through the AI Kosh initiative in order to ensure that data sets are provided. And once these two basic ingredients, the compute and data sets, are made available, then our talented entrepreneurs, engineers, researchers, academicians can use that to train models and build state-of-the-art applications and foundation models that can compete with the best. So that's what India AI Mission is trying to do in order to support this. In addition, we do have a lot of initiatives in the R&D front, because if we have to really take a lead in all these cutting-edge technologies, we need to up our R&D expenditure, which is much below if we compare to the best in the world.
Right. Just to follow up on the compute, I think 34,000 GPUs is your overall target. So far, we have, what, 16,000?
No, we don't have see, the target that we started was to enable a minimum of 10,000 GPUs. So the way it's being done is that we are encouraging more and more investments into GPU infrastructure. For the first two rounds of tenders that we have done, empanelment that we have done, we have got a commitment of 34,000 GPUs, out of which around 18,000 GPUs are already in place, and the remaining will be set up in the next 2 to 3 months. In addition, the empanelment process is a continuous empanelment. So by the next round, which is closing on 9th of June, I expect another 15, 16,000. So in the next 6 months, we'll have around 50,000 GPUs, which will be secured through the India AI mission. In addition, there are many other initiatives. There are many private sector players. Like, for example, Jio had announced a 1 gigawatt data center. Infosys is getting GPUs. Other private entities are getting GPUs. Academic institutions are getting GPUs. So overall availability in India of GPUs will go much beyond 50,000. But again, this number is much less compared to what's available elsewhere in the West.
Right. So for founder startups in this room who want to access these GPUs, how should they go about it? Will it again get into an infinite loop? Because
no, it's pretty straightforward. We have a India AI compute portal, which is like linked to all the empaneled vendors. So those who are wanting to get a GPU of a particular kind, from what is available, whether it's H100s or A100s or H200s, or now we have got Blackwells also offered by Yota. So they will have to choose what they want, how many they want, for the period for which they want, and for the purpose for which they are using. And then if it is below a certain quantity, it's an auto approval. And if it's beyond a particular thing, like for example, Sarvam wanted 4,000 GPUs. So that will go through a process, and then allocation will be made. But normally all allocations are made within 2 weeks.
So no red tape, no delays.
hopefully not. That's what we are trying to eliminate. Yeah.
Okay. Prashant, he covered the compute aspect of it, the data sets. The other important C is capital.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
No, I think there is, again, there's good news. I think VCs have moved from curiosity to conviction, right? So there's no longer, I don't think any early stage fund worth its name is going to be on the sidelines on this AI. And Vas spoke about how transformative this is. And I think the early stage, just to kind of put some data in perspective, I think 18 months ago, we might have had totally about 20, 30 AI startups. Just in the last 18 months, we've added 250.
250 AI startups emerging
Yes.
from India?
From India, yes, just in the last 18 months.
Wow.
Right? And Accel has done 40 plus. So,
Okay. And again,
yeah.
So,
yeah.
6 months ago, VCs would tell us there's an issue with supply, we are not getting that much deal flow in AI. So you're saying that has changed?
Definitely it's changed. See, I think there is, there used to be a huge lag, right, between what's happening in the Valley and what's happening in India. I think that lag is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And when you compare it to the SaaS, the SaaS wave that happened in India to now, I think that lag is even shorter. So I think there was maybe a 9-10 month period where Indian entrepreneurs were trying to understand really, and actually even the VCs were trying to understand what's India's right to win. And I think Vas spoke eloquently on where all, and I think a lot of that is now well understood by the VCs. And I think entrepreneurs are fast following and coming up with great ideas. And there's also a big diaspora, right? The Indian diaspora, and a lot of these startups are cross-border. So these startups are not just, you just don't have an Indian founder. So we are seeing more and more startups where day one you have the founder in India, in the US. So you could have been a founder from India who just moved 6 months ago, or just found somebody to work with in the US 3 months ago. So I think we are starting to see a lot more of these kind of collaborative acceleration in terms of how we will participate in this AI transformation.
Right. So Prashant, you mentioned 240, 250 startups emerging in the last 18 months.
Yes.
I want to understand, are these existing startups that suddenly discovered that they
no,
can
no,
infuse
no,
AI?
not
are
necessarily.
these like fresh?
Yeah, these are AI first startups that have, they could be, of course, angel invested, seed invested. I'm talking across the spectrum. But no, they are, AI native startups that have just now, come up with an idea, and there are people backing them.
Right. And are you seeing more application use
Yeah,
case
so that's
driven?
I think that's a much more broader question. I think I would say 80% of them would be in the application layer. 10-15% would be in the platform.
Hold the mic closer, Prashant.
Sorry?
Hold your mic.
Yeah, so 10-15% would be in platform and infra, and maybe less than 2-3% in not just building foundational models, but maybe adapting foundational models for the country, and which we can talk about more. So it's not always coming up with a new model, but taking an open source model and making it work for the country.
Right. So, you picked Sarvam in April. Last week, you announced 3 more startups to build India's foundational model, which are, I think, Socket, Jnani, and Gun. So, for startups seeking to build a foundational model for India, how are you going about deciding, what criteria are you placing against these startups? Why were these 4 successful, and, why not the rest?
These 4 are the first set of startups that have been selected. As you remember, when we had 30th of January, when we had kind of published the call for proposals for Indian startups to build foundation models, that time we had said that we will be inviting applications which will be due 15th of every month, and then we will be subsequently evaluating. And we published that. Our expectation was that there will be around 20 to 25 applications that will be coming all together. But within the first 2 weeks, the first due date was 15th, and we got almost 67 applications. 15th March, we got 120 more applications. By when we closed the final round and we said that let's complete the evaluations on 30th April, we have got a total of 506 applications. And the quality of these applications and the quality of the proposal that we have got are so good that it's taking a lot of time for us to evaluate.
So that's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, and we had to kind of onboard experts from across the world to help us support to do that, because some of the brightest minds from outside India are also applying for the applications. In fact, gun.ai that you mentioned are two young Stanford graduates who are trying to come back and build a model here. Similarly, we have got applications from many other bright minds from India who would have gone to the US to get exposure to the best in there. And if they are thinking of coming back, and with the present situation that we see unfolding in the US, if that turns into an opportunity for us to see reverse brain drain, and if we are able to get the best to come to India and build applications trained on Indian data sets in Indian context, it will be a good problem to solve. So yes, we have got 4 in the first phase, but I expect that many more in the days to come will be announced.
Give us a number and a timeline.
See, numbers will depend. See, numbers vary because not all of them are asking for the same number of GPUs, the costing. So numbers will depend on the budget that we have. So as long as we have funding available, and from what we've been assured from the government, Ministry of Finance and all, is that if you are able to exhaust the budget that you have, there will be more provisions. So I don't think we'll be limited by the numbers. Our objective is to catch up with where the world is, and to be able to build something which is state of the art, and we can stand proudly that yes, we have the talent, and we have been able to build something what US has built or what China has built. Right now we are not there, but with the skill sets which are there, we may be able to reach. And it's very difficult to say that we'll bet on 4 and 1 will be there. It may not happen. We may need to bet on, say, 40, and maybe 2 will go there, or 5 will go there, or 10 will go there. So it's like this endeavor of the government is something similar to what the VCs do without the skill sets and the experience of VCs. That's why we kind of take help from them and help for people who have worked in this ecosystem, including experts in technology and all, to be able to choose the right, bet on the right companies and right startups, and hope that they are able to achieve. Government, very often, the expectation is that if you fund 10 projects, all 10 should succeed. But it will not happen in this space. But if we don't take chances, we'll never be able to catch up.
So in fact, we were just discussing that I think there's a lot of collaboration that can happen because the number of applications, and they also have to build frameworks to be able to quickly evaluate and have a kind of a qualitative mechanism to score these startups. And so we could help, funds can help in making their pipeline processing more efficient so that they can do more. And maybe Abhishek, you can also talk about the fund of funds, right? The 10,000 crore. So
the deep tech startups.
Deep tech plus AI, right? So that's, yeah.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there is a deep tech startup fund of funds which are announced in the union budget. And in addition, there is also a provision under the India AI mission, a fund of almost 2,000 crores, for which we will be setting up working with the VCs and the investors to have a fund of funds model in which if the VCs, the identified VCs, they invest in a startup or in a company which is building on AI application model, then the government will also make an equal investment. And then the onus of deciding or choosing the startup will lie with the trusted VCs, so that we don't have to spend our time, energy, and expertise, which very often government may not have in all domains, and trust the VCs and then invest them and hope that some of them are able to be world beaters, as Vas was mentioning.
Right. Prashant, Abhishek made an interesting point about a reverse brain drain happening. He called out GUN, where, 2 Stanford graduates are sort of coming back to build. Interestingly, today I saw a post by one VC in Bangalore who said, there's a better chance that you will find Indian AI founders in the Valley than in India. And that they are moving to the Valley very early in the journey compared to the SaaS folks who perhaps move later on. Are you seeing that trend? Is that something to be concerned about? Because ultimately, that is their target market. The depth of capital is there. How do you address that issue?
No, I think I'd like to draw attention back to what Vas spoke about. All the workflows that matter across financial services, healthcare, any vertical sector that you can think about are actually sitting in the 20-mile radius of where we are speaking, right? It's in some service company or the other. I think it's just a matter of time where Indian entrepreneurs have to figure out how do you either learn to collaborate with these services companies, GCCs. There's 2,000 plus GCCs in our country,
Yeah.
which are probably great places to collaborate for our entrepreneurs. Now, I spoke about platforms and infrastructure. Yes, there, day one, your first 10 design partners are not going to be in India or Bangalore. Day one, you got to be in the US. So I think there's two classes of companies, and we shouldn't confuse between the two. I think when you talk about people plus AI or these services, workflows that are going to complement people in enterprises, I think a lot of them over time will be engineered as much from India and with knowledge here in India as in the Valley.
Right. So in the model so far, there's been a lot of focus on voice and local language capabilities. Now, OpenAI is also talking about enhancing local language capabilities. I think we spoke to their VP for engineering recently who said they're planning to do that for languages like Tamil and Hindi. And probably the other models will also do it. So then where is the differentiation, where is the moat for Indian models when an OpenAI with its capital, endless capital, Gemini, etc., are also doing the same in terms of enhancing local language capabilities and so on?
See, this will happen because there was a report that OpenAI's maximum number of subscribers are in India. So many
It's
of
the
these
fastest growing market.
fastest growing. So they will look at India as a revenue center also, and ultimately they will customize them to suit the Indian market. But the value that will come for Indian developers and Indian entrepreneurs will be that given that they have access to a larger pool of data sets, they should be able to engineer it, and they will have to be ingenious in trying to architect, trying to minimize the compute that is required for training the same model, trying to reduce the cost in which they will be able to do. So that ingenuity will have to come. So it's not that just because a solution is Indian, they will succeed. They will have to ultimately compete with the best in the world. It's not that all their revenues will ultimately come from only India. They will have to have a global vision in mind when they are training models. Initial level of support may come from government, but that will not sustain them in the long run. Ultimately, they will have to have a business model. They will have to have the ability to compete with what others are doing. And the way Indian ecosystem is evolving, it's also forcing all the global entities, whether it's OpenAI or Llama, to customize their solutions for India. So it will be an evolving marketplace, and it will also require our teams to not get complacent just because they have government support or they are Indians and they can make substandard. That era is over. So we do believe that the solution that will come from India will be able to compete with the best, with the engineering skills that they have, and then they will be able to survive even though the other products also come in.
Yes, Prashant.
Yeah, see here I'll add two other aspects. One is large-scale adoption for AI across the board, like a digital public good, whether it's education, health, and so on, is going to happen through voice. And I think a lot of those voice-enabled next-gen voice models will be built from this country, right? So I think there's a lot of innovation room there, and I don't think that's going to come from the US. The second, I think Vas also alluded to the cost per token and where is most of the costs in these startups going to, right? So I think that frugality at a very foundational level is what I think Indian startups will be able to bring to the table and change the cost dynamics in the way these models, how efficient these models are in inferencing and how we can contextualize that distillation for our country, and with that deliver a very different cost dynamic. Right. So I think this is a net innovation.
Right. Vas made an interesting point about how the metrics have changed when you evaluate AI startups. For instance, founders are talking about ARR per employee, and 1 million, I think, is sort of the North Star. How does that work out in India? Because the revenue per employee here, would not be at a scale there. So these 40 plus startups that you're investing in, what are you looking at?
See, a lot of these startups are working on with global enterprises and global models. So I think some of it will benchmark to what Vas is talking about. And some of them, of course, will serve Indian use cases and Indian models, and there it'll be very different.
Right. Abhishek, the other question I had is, till now, the bulk of the work that we've seen for producing India's foundational models is being driven by startups, by researchers. Are we going to see any action at all from the bigger players, IT companies, for instance, which are sitting on huge cash flows? What do you expect there? Are you seeing interest from corporates? What do you expect in that respect?
You should be asking them this question, but I do believe that given the capability that our Indian IT industry has, and given from what we are hearing about Infosys investing into GPUs, TCS investing into this, they are taking a large-scale training of their team members, plus the services that they are providing to their global customers. All of them are wanting for AI-based applications. So there will be a need for doing this, for enhancing their capabilities, and I'm sure they would also be coming up with AI products, AI applications, use cases maybe in various sectors, because otherwise for them to survive without AI, it will be very, very difficult, because the whole world is going towards adoption of AI in even applications, use case, the way you write code, the way you implement projects, the way you architect solutions, so the way you deliver even SaaS products. So that will be something that will be needed, and I'm sure they will definitely be able to offer that.
Right.
So
Yes,
yeah,
Prashant.
here we are seeing both, Chandra. One, of course, there's a lot of, within these large companies, I'm sure they're thinking what next. And we are having some of the senior leadership come out from those companies. They know what kind of use cases make sense, and they are starting to partner with VCs and build new companies, right? And there's also a third use case where GCCs are saying, okay, we want to, within our enterprise, here is the use case. Can you just take us as the first design partner and rework that workflows and make them more agentic or whatever, right? So I think we're seeing multiple ways in which there will be disruption within the context of the Indian services ecosystem.
Got it. So you had a stakeholder consultation on AI readiness assessment methodology. So what can you tell us in terms of your initial learnings, in terms of India's approach to ethical AI?
See, like we did have the consultation, in fact, yesterday only with
UNESCO.
With the UNESCO. Then before that we had the consultations in Bangalore also, and Hyderabad and Guwahati. So the idea is that India's governance framework regarding AI, which has been articulated before, and there was a report also that came out from the principal scientific advisors, a committee headed by him, and there also it articulated the techno-legal approach with a focus on innovation while restricting the harms that can be caused. That was the broad framework for doing that. But in order to ensure that we are able to eliminate bias, we are able to ensure that AI models are fair, are explainable, are understandable, are responsible, accountable. So those principles of ethical AI development, those are well enunciated in that report. But to ensure that actually applications are doing that, you will need tools for ensuring that. So under the India AI mission, the safe and trusted pillar, we have set up the AI Safety Institute, which is a conglomeration of institutions working towards development of these tools. And these tools will be available for all AI developers in order to test their application that they conform to the ethical responsible principles.
Right.
But at the moment, we are at the stage where we are more inclined towards promoting AI application development rather than restricting them.
Right. Just to follow up on that, do you think it will also make a strong case for regulation of AI in India, considering the AI adoption is happening at a breakneck pace? India is already one of the biggest markets for open AI. So, will we revisit that? How are you thinking about regulation?
See, regulation will primarily be to ensure that any AI application that is developed is compliant with the legal framework and the laws as they stand, like whether the DPDP Act is there, or how do you limit the impact of deep fakes or misinformation, or something as simple as that, like a very simple use case which would need to be regulated, is that we all know that in India, prenatal sex determination is banned. It's legally not allowed to go to ultra radiologist and try to find out the sex of your yet to be born child. But if you have the ultrasound images and you upload it on a Gen AI model, the model will tell you what it is. So again, that is something that the models will have to train themselves to adapt to Indian laws. So those are the use cases wherein there are any potential violation of an Indian law or the potential harm to an individual or a group of individuals which are prohibited under the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the erstwhile IPC, or the provisions of the IT Act, which can cause any harm to any individual or group of individuals, that will be regulated. But per se, we are not inclined to having something similar to what the EU has. So we are more inclined towards promoting innovation, but while having enough measures with the use of the existing legal provisions to prevent any harm that may take place.
Got it. Prashant, a final 1 minute. You know, if India has to prioritize, say, 3-4 action items over the next 12 months to unlock AI's potential, as a theme session says, what would those be? Three, four very specific action items.
So I think there'll be enough talent that will be available for application building, AI talent. I don't think there is really a lot of paucity of talent there. I think slightly more deeper research-led AI talent. How do you unlock some of that, given that we don't have a large pipeline of researchers? I mean, there's a lot of researchers in India who have gotten into some amount of translation research in the science-based spaces. But I think in computation, we don't have a similar large enough pipeline of researchers who are able to do, for example, the DeepSeek kind of re-engineering that they were able to do, or value addition. So I think we need to be able to unlock that. We need to also be able to find platforms in India where we can land global talent, right? If you have capable people, and there's always ways, there's always reasons why people want to relocate to other parts of the world. So we need to be able to have platforms where you can safe land them and give them ways in which they can contribute. I think this is something that we have been talking about
Like
with the government.
Sandbox,
Just good platform. I mean, we have Art Park, for example, that we have done here in IISc. So can you expand that? Can you have many more art parks where these people can? I don't think many of them want to go to academia per se, right? They want to come to a place where they can get capital, build, and scale. So that's the second. And yeah, there are 2-3 things like this that we can really unlock. Yes.
Right. I want to ask you, Abhishek, have you been doing any vibe coding? Vibe coding. It's the latest thing. Not yet. Prashant?
No.
Prayank built some very interesting
I know.
app.
Prayank does that. I'll only promote what Prayank builds.
Great. On that note, thank you both very much, and please feel free to catch up with them on the sidelines. Thank you very much, Abhishek and Prashant.
Thank you.